Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 5-game NBA DFS slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Excited to get into the breakdown. Going to be breaking down this slate, giving you guys the best plays, looking at the totals, the expected pace, some injury news, all the fun stuff that's going to be impacting the guys that we want to play in our lineup. So let's go ahead and get into it. And a quick reminder that if you do enjoy the content at any point in this video, if you could please take a second to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, that would be greatly appreciated. It's going to help me a lot in going forward and supporting this channel. And don't forget to stay tuned till the end of the video for my lock of the night, fan favorite segment on the channel. I'm going to give you guys the top guy that I'd be locking into my lineups tonight based on the news that we have as of now. And with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and start breaking down it. First game on the slate, as always, we're going to go game by game here. New York Knicks taking on the Brooklyn Nets. RJ Barrett is listed as questionable. Obviously, that's some pretty big news. If he is indeed out, there's going to be a pretty big bump up to quite a few guys in this offense. I mean, obviously, Julius Randle will get a big bump up. Alec Burks, Evan Fournier. I always think that we'll see Derrick Rose take on a little bit more responsibility as well, all the way down here at 4-3. Just a matter of if he's in. He is listed as questionable. If he is out, Alec Burks, once again, expecting a big bump up. And we're also looking at Nerlens Noel, who's listed as questionable, which would be big news for Mitchell Robinson because he typically splits minutes with Mitchell Robinson. So if he's out, that's going to be a big bump up for Mitchell Robinson. So quite a bit of big news here on the New York Knicks side of things that we're certainly going to have to keep our eyes on. It's going to open up more minutes for Obi Toppin most likely as well, and a few other guys that would be grading out a lot more in my projections as really fantastic plays. Of course, Julius Randle is where it all starts in this offense, so if these guys are all ruled out, Julius Randle is going to get a huge bump up. He's going to be a tremendous play and someone that I would certainly be prioritizing in my lineups. And then followed by, obviously, Alec Burks, Evan Fournier, Kemba Walker as well. They're all going to see the big minutes. They're all going to see the big usage and most likely going to see the biggest upside. Kemba Walker continues to see his minutes somewhat capped, though. He only played 23 minutes last time out. We saw Emmanuel quickly go out there and play 31 minutes. They just really don't seem to want to play him a lot of minutes. So Kemba Walker, I'm a little bit skeptical on playing. I really don't know what's going on. I know he's had his struggles and everything, but I don't really know why you would want to pay a guy and then limit his minutes the way they have been. But I am not the New York Knicks, so let them do their thing, I guess. So yeah, that'd be who I'd be looking to on the Knicks side of things. On the Brooklyn side of things, very simple. It's James Harden, it's Kevin Durant. We know these guys absolutely dominate the usage in their offense. Everything flows through them. They are priced up accordingly, but for good reason. And when you're looking at the overall pace in this game does come in right now with a 216 over-under with a 6.5 point spread in favor of the Brooklyn Nets. So, not exactly the fastest paced game in the world, but it is expected to stay somewhat close right now, according to Vegas. These lines could change depending upon the injury news that comes out and all that stuff. But we saw Kevin Durant put up 70 last time out. We've seen James Harden put up to 70 as far as his upside capabilities. Now, granted, he did do that when Kevin Durant was out, but both these guys are going to have big upside. And then as far as the secondary guys you're looking to play, LaMarcus Aldridge at 5'7" continues to see mid to upper 20s. He can certainly blow away that price tag at his price tag. And then when you go down, you got Blake Griffin, who's priced pretty cheaply. He's seen his minutes get really cut back, though, so I'm a little bit skeptical. I'm really wanting to go with him. You also have Bruce Brown, who's seen his minutes be cut back quite a bit. So, yeah, I mean, the Brooklyn Nets are a little bit unpredictable outside of, you know, the obvious candidates. And Patty Mills is the obvious candidate as well. He's been playing mid to upper 30s in minutes, so he certainly makes a lot of sense for you in your tournament lineups for sure. Memphis taking on Toronto's next game on the slate. As far as an overall total in this game comes in with a 219 over-under with a 5.5 point spread in favor of the Toronto Raptors. Ja Morant has been listed as out. And he's going to return the season, but he's going to be out for quite some time. So, obviously with him out, Tyus Jones, D'Anthony Melton, Jaren Jackson, Dylan Brooks, Desmond Bane, all going to get big bump up in usage here. All of the starters. We also have no OG Anunoby in this one for the Toronto side of things, so that's certainly going to open up some more usage in minutes for Svi Mikhailuk, Precious Achiuwa. Those two guys mainly going to be the candidates, and especially if there's no Gary Trent Jr., then we're going to be looking to even a bigger bump up in Svi Mikhailuk. So certainly be keeping your eyes on the news right here. Memphis and Toronto have both been teams that have really struggled defensively early on in the season, so I do think this could be a pretty good fantasy point environment here. I mean, you're looking at the total. It's a 219 over-under with a 5.5 point spread in favor of Toronto. And both sides are fairly obvious as to where we're going to get the usage, so that's a great thing. On the Toronto side, Van Vliet, Siakam, Scotty Barnes, these guys are getting a bunch of minutes, mid to upper 30s, up to 40 minutes a game. VanVleet going to be a great play for that reason. Siakam going to be a great play for that reason. And the same rule is going to apply to Scotty Barnes down here at 7K. All going to be good fantasy point producers, all playing maximum minutes, and all get a great matchup taking on a Memphis squad that has not played good defensively all season long. And the same thing can be applied on the other side of the ball. Run it back with Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, all of these guys that are going to be relied on so heavily now that there is no John Morant. These guys are going to have to really step up. Last time he played was on the 26th, and if you look at the game logs, last time out, they got blown out, which kind of makes sense. Obviously, they're going to be adjusting to without the minutes. The only problem is Dylan Brooks really hasn't been playing that many minutes, so that's certainly something to keep an eye on. But as far as Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, all these other guys, I have no issues with you going to them. I really think a lot of it has to do with the blowouts that were occurring. And then, of course, Tyus Jones, DeAnthony Melton, going to be great plays as well. I think they're going to see all the run that they can handle if the game can indeed stay close. And something worth mentioning is Kem Birch and Goran Dragic continue to be out. So with there being no Kem Birch, Achiawa should see an even big bump up. And with there being no Goran Dragic, that's obviously going to open up some more usage for the guards. And Delano Banton, Fred VanVleet, we already talked about. So that's how I'd be looking to in this game. Fairly straightforward, and honestly a game I think I have plenty of interest in getting some exposure to. Kyle Anderson, another guy I didn't talk about. His minutes have been somewhat capped. You could also look to a Steven Adams. And with there being no Kem Birch, possibility of seeing some more Chris Boucher. He only played 14 minutes last time out, but if we can see some more minutes out of him, great fantasy point producer that we could really have some interest in. LA Lakers taking on the Sacramento Kings. This game right now comes in with a total of 227 over-under, 4.5 point spread in favor of the LA Lakers. Expected to be a very fast-paced game. That's all good stuff. We've seen Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James really step it up here as of late. 66 and 47 points for Russell Westbrook the last two times out. For Anthony Davis, 52 and 51 for LeBron James. We've seen him put up 56 and 59. So the big three kind of finally showing some chemistry, putting up big games. That's what we need out of them, and playing lots and lots of minutes. So I was avoiding them early on in the season. I really didn't want to play these guys because the fact of the matter is they just were cutting into each other's usage. They really weren't performing all that well. Now when you look at their scores overall, they've been doing very, very good job of contributing and going out there, playing maximum minutes, really putting the team on their backs. And it's really these three guys that are the main candidates to lead the team, of course. So really going to have some interest in them in this fast up-tempo game. The one thing is I would say you should limit your exposure to two of these guys most likely in your tournaments. I have a really hard time believing that all three of them are capable of getting there. In a fast up-tempo environment, it's possible, but I tend to think, there's probably going to be two of them that get there. The third one probably doesn't quite make it, so that would be my strategy. Play two of them, don't play three of them, and try to capture that upside. And it's definitely, those guys that are the ones you're going to want to have interest in. On the Sacramento side of things, Rashawn Holmes and Harrison Barnes, both listed as questionable. Of course, that's going to be some very big news. So we have to keep our eyes on that because that's going to impact the rest of the Kings rotation. If these guys are indeed out, we'll be looking to some more backup minutes. From a May2 who would possibly get a big bump up, maybe even a Marvin Bagley and Alex Len. So that's obviously a big piece of news. And if one of these guys is in and one of these guys is out, that's going to ramp it up even more. One thing is, Harrison Barnes is listed as doubtful. We saw Terrence Davis get the start in the previous contest, and he may get another start. So that's another guy that would get a bump up in Terrence Davis. So certainly be keeping our eyes on that news. I'm sure that Harrison Barnes will be ruled out. Terrence Davis, pretty cheap, good fantasy point producer, fast up-tempo game. Everything kind of lines up for him to be able to fill right in. Alex Len, as mentioned, he's seen right now 37 minutes last in one game, and the last time I only saw 7, so that's a little bit inconsistent. So certainly keep your eyes on that one because you also have to compete with Tristan Thompson for minutes off the bench here as well at 3.8. We saw him get 22 and 20 minutes. And lastly, Marvin Bagley, like I said, a guy that's been pretty much limited for the most part in the season, but we saw him play 35 minutes on the 26 and then only 19 last time. I think that was because it was a blowout. So certainly keep your eyes on the starting rotation, the minutes that these guys have played in the past with these guys out, and be ready to apply your adjustments accordingly. And, of course, if there's no Rashawn Holmes and Harrison Barnes, that's just going to get an even bigger bump up to the starters in De'Aaron Fox, Halliburton, Buddy Hield, all of which would see a big bump up. So, obviously very relevant news that we're going to have to keep our eyes on. That will be determining a lot of our lineups Taylor Horton-Tucker and Carmelo Anthony, probably the ones that are taking the biggest hit here, with the big three really stepping up because they're not going to get nearly as much usage as they were. So it's something to take note of there. Golden State Warriors taking on the Phoenix Suns. Next game on the slate. This game right now comes with a 220.5 over-under with a 2.5 point spread in favor of the Phoenix Suns. Expected to stay close. Expected to be pretty decently paced for the totals that we've seen on the season so far. And Draymond Green is listed as questionable. He's expected to play, though. So I would expect him to be in. Nothing really too crazy to worry about here. And at a game that's expected to stay close with some high usage guys, we know exactly what we're going to in the pay-up options in this game. It's going to be Stephen Curry. It's going to be Devin Booker. It's going to be Chris Paul. However, both of these teams have been very good defensively on the season, to be honest with you, and I'm not really getting too excited to really want to target them. When you're looking at my defensive half-court and putbacks tool here, as far as how these teams have fared, Golden State is the #1 team overall in points per possession rank on the season, and Phoenix is the #3 team overall in points per possession rank, meaning these teams have done a very good job of shutting down their opponents, meaning it might be a defensive battle that I'm not really trying to target all that much. Even though it's 220.5 over-under, I might want to be going for some cheaper options in this game rather than pay-up options. We have a DeAndre Ayton and Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole, all priced in the mid-range that you could possibly be looking to. Once again, though, not exactly the great matchup. And as far as on the cheaper end, if we could find any bargain guys, Jay Crowder all the way down here at 3.9 is a guy that's played anywhere from mid-20s to 30 minutes. I certainly think he could be a good tournament play. JaVale McGee taking on the Golden State Warriors may be interesting. There continues to be no Frank Kaminsky, so they're going to need someone to fill in for those minutes. But overall, I honestly think I'd probably limit my exposure a little bit to this game. We just talked about some other games I like a lot more. The Knicks, if they have injuries. The Memphis-Toronto game, I think, is a great environment. The LA Lakers-Sacramento game is a great environment. So, not getting too excited here, to be honest with you, to target this game overall. So, next game on the slate, Detroit taking on Portland. That's going to be the last game on the slate. Damian Lillard comes in at 9.7. This game comes in with a 216 over with a 9.5 point spread in favor of the Portland Trailblazers. Another game that I think I'm not going to have the biggest interest in, mainly due to the blowout concern. Norman Powell is listed as questionable in this one. That's certainly big news if he is out. Nazir Little, Tony Snell could take on increased roles. And we're also just going to be looking to more usage for CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard. Both get a big bump up. Just one less guy to take away their usage. Certainly not scared of the Detroit defense. It's really just a matter if this game stays close. You have Cade Cunningham, Jeremiah Grant that you could run it back with if you really have a lot of interest in the Portland side of things. I would want to be running it back with these guys because they're really going to have big games to keep this game close, most likely, along with Sadiq Bey. So that would be my approach there. At least play one of those guys, if not two. Then you can be looking to an Isaiah Stewart, a Killian Hayes, and a Corey Joseph. But I'm not nearly as interested in these guys down here, to be honest with you. It's going to be kind of the main candidates up top. For the Detroit side, it's going to be Jeremiah Grant, Sadiq Bey, Cade Cunningham that are really the main three I'd be focusing in on. And then on the Detroit side, on the Portland side, Yusuf Nurkic continues to see his minutes pretty much limited, but he can certainly get there in a hurry, and he's still priced in the mid-6K range, so he's a little bit of a kind of a risky option that you could go to, but it's mainly going to be CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard, obviously, especially if there is no Norman Powell. But as mentioned, if there is no Norman Powell, we could be looking to a Nazir Little for some salary relief. Even a Larry Nance Jr. who could possibly see a bump up in some minutes, in some usage here, and then a Tony Snell as well. Not getting too excited about them, but those are the guys that would be seeing the bump up. So got to be at least taking a look at them. Nazir Little, as far as his performances, he put up 18 last time in the 27 minutes he played. Taking on a Utah team that's pretty good defensively, so not terrible performance at all. Once again, he could be an intriguing value play. So that is my overall breakdown of this 5-game slate. Taking a quick look over at FanDuel, as always, just to make sure that there is no pricing discrepancies before I give you guys a lock of the night. In general, we're usually on the pretty much the same page over here. Pascal Siakam at 7.5. I talked about liking those Raptors players. Over here on FanDuel, I think that's way too cheap for him. So he's a guy that's standing out to me in my projections really early. Going to play mid-30s to upper 30s, taking on a Memphis squad that really sucks defensively. So he's a guy that I'd be looking to for sure over here. As far as anyone else on FanDuel, everything looks pretty similar. Jaren Jackson Jr. at only 6,500. We mentioned there's no John Morant. He should get a big bump up in usage. He's another guy that really looks good over here on FanDuel specifically. He's got power forward and center eligibility at 6,500. If he's able to stay out of foul trouble, he should be able to surpass that price tag very, very easily. So I'm going to like him quite a bit. Fred VanVleet at 8.4, another Raptors guy we talked about that we liked. And obviously the RJ Barrett news is going to be really big. I really like Julius Randle as well over here. As far as the guard position, De'Aaron Fox, Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook all standing out. So honestly, guys, it's pretty similar over here on FanDuel for the most part. We talked about the game environment, especially on a slate this small. D'Anthony Melton, obviously, on the Memphis side of things. Desmond Bane as well. Going to get all that usage in minutes with there being no Ja Morant. So they're going to be probably pretty underpriced here until the sites adjust. So those guys I'd be looking to too. And with that being said, before I let you guys go, I got to give you my lock of the night. Let's get into it. And my lock of the night tonight is going to be Pascal Siakam. Priced very reasonably for his fantasy point upside on both websites, putting over 1 DK point per minute, over 1 FanDuel point per minute, playing lots of minutes, mid-30s to upper 30s per game, and taking on a Memphis squad that has been absolutely terrible defensively all season long. Not to mention there's no OG Anunoby. Should give an even bigger bump up to him in usage, and Gary Trent Jr. is listed as questionable. If Gary Trent Jr. is out, that's an even bigger bump for Pascal Siakam. Lots of things in his favor here in this particular matchup. Get him in your lineups because he is my lock of the night. So there we go, guys. Pascal Siakam, get him in your lineups. And that is all from me in this one. If you did enjoy the content, if you could please take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content that I upload. That would be greatly appreciated. I'll be going live later on, so feel free to join into the live stream. And that's all for me, guys. Wish you all the best of luck, and we'll see you in the next one.